Hi everyone, Juxtable here. Endgame came out as it's been a few weeks and I thought now would be a good time to review every Marvel movie in 10 words or less. Now this is an idea from Jello Apocalypse as he used it on Disney, Pixar, and DreamWorks movies. So I decided to do so with Marvel movies. This will include all MCU theater movies, so no spin-off shows. And for fun, I even included Marvel movies from Sony and Fox, so this will include most of the X-Men and Spider-Man movies. Anyways, let's start off with the list. Pretty deep message about discrimination with mutants. With great power, Sony created a great movie. Every mutant has awesome moments. Except for Logan Cyclops. Everybody hates Spider-Man. Makes a wonderful movie. Feels more like a sitcom than a superhero movie. Every mutant's either killed, depowered, or have their characters ruined. Emo Peter Parker turned this movie into a joke. Whose bright idea was it to turn Galactus into a cloud? Iron Man, starring Robert Downey Jr., playing as himself. Easy to forget this crap was part of the MCU. They ruined Deadpool! Ah! I bet the writers were drunk for this one. Bland setting, bland romance, but I like Loki. This Frenemies movie worked due to the good cast. I surprisingly enjoyed this underdog movie. First half was meh, but the second half was awesome! Sorry, it feels like a bland copy of the original. It's Iron Man versus Rip-Off Syndrome and Mandarin the Actor. X-Men Tokyo Drift is just okay. More like For the Dark World! This film ditches the Marvel formula for suspense. Excellent. Watch how Sony ruins the Spider-Man cinematic universe. Hooked on this movie for its music and visuals. Let's go back in time to erase the bad movies. Thought it was going to be dark, but it's quippy. Ant-Man figures out wombology. Half of this emotionless movie is just a boring origin. Thank you, Ryan Reynolds, for making Deadpool spectacular. This was the best fight of the year. Sorry, DC. Apocalypse is now the most boring X-Men villain ever. Wanna hear the weirdest dream I had? A great way to end the life story of Wolverine. Aw, Baby Groot is so cute! Wait, what's the plot again? High school feels strangely realistic in this movie. Finally, a good Thor movie that's actually funny. Hey, Disney finally made a live adaptation of Lion King. Oh snap! Funny, but even Deadpool admits there's some lazy writing. Your mothers will be so proud of you guys!
Venom would be better in a rated R movie.
Took a leap of faith, comic book look super awesome. Tell the emotionless girl she's too emotional. Haha, great idea. I love it. 3000. Now that we got that done, time for the 5 best and 5 worst movies on my list, where you can comment down below on how much you disagree with me, even though you're wrong. Avengers! I'm gonna be honest, I was debating to give the number 5 spot to either Infinity War or Guardians of the Galaxy, and in the end, I thought I had to give it to Guardians. I mean, it's the funniest movie, it has the best color, the best soundtrack, and the best characters. Every hero on the team is likable and funny in their own way, which is pretty hard for Infinity War to do since they have like a million characters. But anyways, Guardians is such a unique movie compared to all the other Marvel movies. We actually have fun seeing how life is like outside of our world, as they have their own adventures in different planets. It is a team of misfits with a raccoon and a tree. You're never going to find another team like that. And this movie really worked due to the great casting and especially to the director, James Gunn, who made it his style. Even though the only problem is the villain, it still does not diminish all the positives it has. So this definitely is one of Marvel's strongest movies.
I don't feel so good.
Oh, Thor. Poor guy's had the weakest franchise of the Marvel movies, excluding Ragnarok, and this is especially the weakest of the MCU. Thor isn't as fascinating as a character while in his own standalone movies, and especially in this one. The supporting cast is weak and we don't care about anyone other than Thor and Loki. And Jen is forced to be in the story since she's Thor's girlfriend and it just doesn't work. And the storyline of the villain is bland and generic. It seemed like they're trying to make Thor 2 like Game of Thrones. They even hired one of the directors of Game of Thrones. And it just doesn't fit Thor's style. This movie is very skippable. I wouldn't really recommend watching this one. Avengers! First off, the animation is gorgeous in Spider-Verse. It's new, original, and unique. Sony obviously wanted to make it feel like a comic book, and they nailed it. The designs are gorgeous, with all the characters being 3D animated, moving in a 2D motion. Every Spider-Man is likable and unique, even Miles Morales, who must have been the biggest challenge as they were trying to avoid to make him like Peter Parker, which was the theme of the movie. He wasn't meant to be the next Peter Parker. He's supposed to be his own version of Spider-Man. The character arc for Miles is engaging as he actually learns how to be a hero while struggling to use his powers, and even one for Spider-Man, Peter B. Parker, which I talked about in another video. But all in all, this movie took a risk, or a leap of faith, and it definitely won the hearts of Spider-Man fans, including myself, and I definitely recommend everyone should watch it.
I don't feel so good.
Iron Man was such a good film when it came out, and I remember looking forward to the sequel, which is not even close to being as good as the first one. It's just forgettable. Iron Man 2 probably has the least action out of all the Marvel movies in the MCU, and when it does, it's disappointing. Iron Man easily beats Whiplash, who is a dumb villain, then he fights him again and beats him in less than a minute. There's a lot of subplots that are easily forgettable. It's just a messy Iron Man movie with little story.
Avengers!
Logan. Definitely the best Marvel movie by Fox. It is unlike the other X-Men movies, or superhero movies in general. Everything about this movie is sad, and you actually care about Old Man Logan and Professor X, as you've seen the trouble they have gone through to save the mutants, but now are in a depressing era. In this movie, it shows that Logan's greatest enemies was never the other mutants and or humans. It was himself. It literally was himself. Anyways, after many years of watching Wolverine go on his journey, we find out it results in him giving up after losing everyone. But this movie shows that it's not too late to redeem yourself, as this was the case for Logan, even if it is meant to be his last adventure.
I don't feel so good.
The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Yeah, this is my least favorite Spider-Man movie, and one big reason why is because it's messy. I can't even say what the plot of this movie is. Spider-Man tries to save the day. He does that every movie. Oh, it's his romance with Gwen Stacy. It was being overused, and I actually wanted it to end so he can move on. One minute he says he can't be with her, then the next he wants to get back together, then he says goodbye, then says he never wants to leave her. And this took up most of the movie, which makes it feel more like a romance movie than a Spider-Man movie, and not the good kind of romance. And there's so many useless subplots, which basically is filler. I question, why am I even watching this, since this movie was mainly made to be a setup for the Sinister Six, which ultimately failed because they couldn't make sense with everything going on in here. The best thing I can say about The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is that it led to Marvel having the rights to Spider-Man again, where they did him justice.
Avengers!
I know, this is the third Spider-Man movie I'm reviewing. This may be one of the older movies on the list, but the fact that it still holds up to all the other movies is a great feat itself. This movie has a lot of themes it's covering, while Peter Parker is trying to mix in his normal life with his superhero life. It's about love, loss, balance, and life in general. It's really about Peter trying to get his life together with so much going on. This is something we all have to deal with, as we're trying to mix in everything in our lives too. So life sucks for Spider-Man, and I'm sure we've all been down that road. The action feels real without overusing the CGI. Doc Ock is a great villain and many great characters thanks to the great casting, especially J.K. Simmons. The fact people still compare any Spider-Man movie that's recently made to this specific one shows how amazing this movie was. That's why to this day I still think this is the best Spider-Man movie ever made. So I actually recommend that everyone should watch Spider-Man 2.
I don't feel so good.
The originals were bad, but at least they weren't taking themselves seriously, so it was funny. But in the reboot, they actually took themselves seriously in this movie, which resulted in a much more boring version of the Fantastic Four. Their team is anything but fantastic, as they don't even call themselves the Fantastic Four. It feels depressing to watch, as the actors seem like they are bored of being in this movie. There's nothing fun, and there seems to be little imagination. Half of this movie is just setting up for them to get their powers, and it feels longer than it should, with nothing exciting going on. Then, once they do, for the next half it gets even worse, which should never happen in any superhero movie. I don't really recommend people to watch this one because not much happens in this movie.
Avengers!
Avengers Endgame. I think we all knew this movie would be on the list somehow. But where to begin? Marvel definitely saved the best for last. This movie will make you laugh, smile, cry, for many different reasons. It starts off very depressing and you can actually feel it for the first act. Every character deals with the world losing half of its population very differently, and you can relate to how they all handle it. And this movie's really smart in referencing all the other past movies in either the characters' lines or in certain scenes, with the climax being the best one. The movie is called Endgame for a reason. It was able to create closure for many of the heroes, which most Marvel movies don't do. Anyways, I can go on about Endgame, but we'll leave it there, as it's the #1 movie in my heart, and I can't see any other Marvel movie topping it.
I don't feel so good.
Incredible Hulk. Why was this movie made? But the others were too. But we see them grow as characters like Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America. We don't see that here. At least Fantastic Four tried to take a risk and do something different, even though they failed. But Incredible Hulk does nothing, which is why I think this is the worst Marvel movie. I don't recommend anyone to watch this. You have nothing to gain from watching The Incredible